Hey there, welcome to the Greater You. Good to see you guys today. So let's talk about today's thought, which is the two ways of being, which we talk about quite a bit. But there's so many different ways that this has been approached over the many years that people have tackled this problem of figuring out, these two ways of being. And today we wanted to talk about a couple of designations that can really help us understand at a deeper level these two ways of being. So we talk about the open and the closed way, right? One way to characterize this is to think about the path of growth versus the path of bitterness. These are pretty strong words, and I think that's purposeful as a way to designate these two ways of being. It's helpful for us that are on the path of growth or desiring to get on the path of growth because it helps us understand what these paths lead to. So let's talk about this for a moment. The path of bitterness first. Let's start with the bad news first, right? So the path of bitterness is pretty common for people to fall into. Both of these ways of beings are things that people can almost slide in and out of somewhat fluidly. What we want, though, is to get away from trends of being in the path of bitterness, right? So the path of bitterness is when we're in this stuck, closed, rigid mindset, and we don't we find ourselves having kind of this pervasive, chronic negative attitude, find ourselves fault finding, we're quick to finger point. We might find ourselves blasting people online anonymously or not anonymously. That's a place where we see that bitterness show up really well, unfortunately. We might find ourselves, secretly, quietly judging people for the way they look, dress, or act. All of those things are symptoms of the path of bitterness. It leads to bitterness because we're constantly looking for problems. We're letting our negativity bias run us. We only see the problems around us. And if we engage in attitudes around this on a common basis, that bitterness can build up in us. And then you just kind of get this grumpy, negative attitude, right? That comes from that. The most dangerous part of this path, if it's not something that we check ourselves on the regular, is that it can lead to what we call the hardening of the heart, right? If you get this hardness in even in your mind, like this rigidity in your thinking, I'm right, you're wrong, kind of black and white thinking, this tendency that can build up into really a lifestyle where we find ourselves generally just most of the time feeling negative about life, feeling like people are terrible, people are stupid, life is garbage, why are we doing this? And it can really lead to a really hard, cold, bitter feeling inside of a person. The good news is that we can check ourselves on this. The other side of this coin is the path of growth, which we love to talk about. Everything at the Greater You and all of our coaching that we do is designed to help people get on the path of growth and stay there as much as possible. And then, gently get ourselves back on that path when we find ourselves diverging off. The path of growth is a teachable, willing way. It's being open-minded, forgiving, softer, but not weaker. Soft is not weak. I will talk to you all day long about that. If you have questions about soft not being weak, it is not weak to be soft. It's actually strong. It requires vulnerability, which vulnerability is a strong state of being. It is not weak to be vulnerable. When we're in the path of growth, we're more engaged, we're more willing to develop, and we're pursuing development. People that are truly in the path of growth celebrate other people's victories. If someone does something better than you, cheer them on, right? If you're playing pickleball with a buddy and they win, give them a high five, right? Don't let that bitterness build up in you, the resentment of comparison, of thinking, oh man, they're better than me, but really I'm better than them. They just got lucky. Like, come on, get that garbage thinking out of your brain and come back to growth mindset, right? So the cool thing is that if we stay on the path of growth and make that more of our lifestyle and our attitude, you're going to have more love and joy in your life. You're going to have pain and anguish and suffering like the rest of all mankind, but you're going to get through that suffering better and more readily because there's going to be people around you. People that are stuck in rigid, bitter mindsets have like a repulsor field around them. People don't want to be around them. It's repelling, right? Except for that, like the chronic other negative guy that wants someone to like, birds of a feather flock together, and a couple of negative people getting together and tearing someone down online together. That's not true connection. That's just the path of bitterness being shared with another person who is finding themselves in that pretty ugly state of being. So the growth mindset is softer in so many ways and can lead to love and really genuinely being able to see the good in people. Now, I know that there are risks with staying on the path of growth and being open and vulnerable. There are people that are on the path of bitterness that have developed maybe personality profiles, things like narcissism and all that stuff that will try and take advantage of people on the path of growth. But does that mean you should leave behind your growth mindset just because you're afraid of some narcissist taking advantage of you? The answer is no. Just be wise and smart about it and learn how to read people and have them, don't just give them all your trust right away, build relationships from the ground up and develop relationships of trust over time so that you can show your vulnerabilities with the right type of person, right? So there's clearly nuances around this. We don't want to be black and white in our thinking and say, you're either growing or you're not. That's no, no, no. It's probably more of a scale. But it's important to understand these two ways of being and how they kind of show up in our lives. A couple of hints at solution. And guys, really, in order to dig in and to get yourself really moving into the path of growth, it's wise to get like a coach to help you with that so that you can kind of really understand the mindsets around it. Couple of hints though. The moment we're asking ourselves, wait, what's going on with me? Am I being kind of rigid in my thinking? Asking those self-aware types of questions move us out of the bitter mindset and can move us into a path of growth pretty quickly. So that accountability comes in, right? And then the other tip for today is, find someone, particularly someone that maybe you've been holding some chip on your shoulder about, and do something kind for them, right? Send that old neighbor that used to, be your curmudgeon neighbor, send them a text, be like, hey, you know what? Thank you for all those years where, took my trash out for me, or whatever they did. Find some way to do something kind towards those people that you've maybe been holding a grudge against. And then the third thing is to let go. Let go of whatever those grudges are and those opinions that you're holding on to that are holding your own growth back. If you find yourself being really dogmatic in your approach to everything in life and just so rigid, work on softening that up by letting go and learning the letting go process. Okay, like this video if you liked it. It was good to talk to you guys today. We will talk to you soon. We always have more to share coming up in the future. Thank you. Have a good one.